The moment Claire's voice came through the phone, I knew something was wrong. "You need to come home. Now," she said, her tone sharp, trembling, edged with anger. "We need to talk. And don't bother denying it." Then the line went dead. No explanation. No chance to ask what she meant. Just silence. I sat frozen in my office chair, the fluorescent hum above me suddenly deafening. My stomach twisted into knots. In 10 years of marriage, Claire had never spoken to me that way. The drive home was a blur, rain streaking across the windshield, streetlights smearing into pale trails. My grip tightened on the steering wheel, knuckles white, my mind racing through every possibility. Had I forgotten something? An anniversary? Was it about money? Or Emily? The thought hit like a punch. Her daughter, 16 now, distant, withdrawn. Ever since she'd started high school, she'd looked at me less like a stepfather and more like an intruder. I'd assumed it was normal teenage rebellion. But maybe it wasn't. When I opened the front door, the air inside felt colder than usual. Claire stood in the living room, arms folded, eyes red and wet, but blazing. Emily sat on the couch, face down in her phone, a faint smirk tugging at her lips. "What's going on?" I asked carefully, closing the door behind me. Claire's voice cracked. "Don't act innocent, Daniel. I know everything." My throat went dry. Everything about what?
She hurled a photo at me.
It landed at my feet, a grainy image of me in the backyard, kneeling beside Emily's bike, fixing her chain. She was smiling, but the angle, the crop, it looked wrong. Too close. Too intimate. "She told me what you did," Claire spat. "What you tried to do." The world stopped. "What?" I managed. "Claire, no." She backed away as I stepped forward, eyes wild, voice shaking. "Don't you dare deny it." She came to me crying, "Daniel. She said you made her uncomfortable, that you touched her." My knees nearly gave out. That's a lie. That's an absolute lie. But Claire wasn't listening. Her breathing was ragged, hands trembling. "Get out," she whispered. "I can't even look at you." Emily never looked up. Her expression didn't change. She didn't have to. The damage was done. That night, I slept in a cheap motel off the highway, staring at the ceiling, gasping for air. The accusation itself was enough to destroy me, and from her daughter, the girl I'd helped raise since she was 8. The one whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose homework I'd guided, whose tears I'd wiped away after her first heartbreak. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The next week was a nightmare. Claire blocked my number. My belongings sat in boxes on the porch. At work, people whispered. No one met my eyes. I hired a lawyer and filed for defamation, but without proof, without Claire's cooperation, I had nothing. Every time I thought about her, about my wife believing that lie over me, something inside cracked a little more. Weeks turned to months. I moved into a small downtown apartment, microwave dinners, bitter coffee, endless silence. Then one evening, a knock. When I opened the door, Claire stood there, makeup smeared, eyes swollen, shoulders slumped like she'd been carrying grief for miles. "Claire." My voice barely worked. "Can I come in?" she whispered. I stepped aside. We sat across from each other in silence until she finally spoke. "Emily's gone." My stomach dropped. "Gone? What do you mean gone?" "She ran away," Claire said softly. 2 weeks ago. She's been staying with friends. But before she left, she told one of them the truth. My breath caught. "She lied," Claire whispered, tears spilling over. "She made it all up. She said she wanted me to herself again, that she hated how close we were." For months I'd been drowning in shame, anger, and isolation, and it all crumbled in that single sentence. "I'm so sorry, Daniel," she said, reaching across the table. I didn't want to believe her, but she cried and I was so sure. I pulled my hand back. "You didn't just believe her, Claire. You destroyed me." She flinched, guilt written all over her face. "I lost my job," I said, my voice shaking. "My friends. My reputation. You didn't even give me a chance to defend myself." I know, she sobbed. I know, and I'll never forgive myself. But please, let me make it right. Make it right. I laughed bitterly.
How?
What's left to fix? She reached into her bag and slid a manila envelope across the table. Divorce papers, she said quietly. You sent them months ago. I never signed. I wanted to believe we could still fix things. But maybe you're right. Maybe I don't deserve forgiveness. I stared at the envelope. The finality of it felt both heavy and strangely freeing. Then she added, almost in a whisper, there's something else. I looked up. I found her journal, she said. Emily wrote everything, how she edited that photo, how she faked messages from you, even how proud she felt when I kicked you out. Tears streamed down Claire's cheeks. I'm going to the police tomorrow. I'll clear your name. My chest tightened. Vindication didn't feel like victory. It felt hollow. She's just a kid, I said quietly. A broken, angry kid. And maybe we both failed her. Claire nodded through her tears. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The ticking clock was the only sound between us. Then, in a trembling voice, she asked, Do you still love me? The question lingered like smoke, painful, fragile. I wanted to say yes, to believe love could survive anything. But after the accusations, the silence, the abandonment, love had turned into something sharp and unfamiliar. I don't know anymore, I said finally. I loved you enough to trust you, but you didn't love me enough to doubt her. Claire's eyes closed as tears fell freely. That's fair, she whispered. I just hope someday you find peace, even if it's not with me. She stood slowly, pausing at the door. Her hand lingered on the handle. I'm sorry, Daniel, she said one last time. Then she was gone. Weeks passed. The police cleared my name. My lawyer mentioned possible restitution, but I declined. What good would it do? Money couldn't replace the sleepless nights or the pain of watching the woman I loved look at me like a monster. Then one afternoon, a letter arrived. It was from Emily. Daniel, I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know I'm getting help. Mom told me everything.
I'm sorry.
You were good to me, better than I deserved. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Months later, I went back to the old house to collect the last of my tools. The yard was overgrown, the fence peeling, the air stale. It didn't feel like home anymore, just a ghost of one. As I locked the gate, I saw Claire standing on the porch, watching silently. She didn't speak. Neither did I. But as our eyes met, I saw something new. Not guilt, not pleading, just quiet recognition. A shared understanding of everything we'd lost. I gave her a small nod and turned to leave. The evening air was cool, the sun dipping low behind the trees. And for the first time in months, I felt something I'd thought was gone for good, peace. Not perfect, not complete, but enough to breathe again. Because sometimes the truth doesn't set you free all at once. Sometimes it just gives you the strength to stop bleeding.